What's the center? What's the radius? That's the two things that people can get mixed up. Also, that's a lot of letters. What's going on there? Well, it's just like the y equals mx plus b formula that y'all talked about a ton last year, and we haven't really talked about it much this year. But like the x and the y remain in that formula. You don't have to sub any numbers. It was just like the slope or that m and the b that you plug stuff in. But here, it's the h, the k, and the r where you plug things in. The center is h and k. The radius, obviously, is r. So what does the center mean? It's just like the point in the middle of the circle. And that's how you name a circle, which we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow. I guess Monday. We're going to talk about that Monday. And so it's important to be able to identify the center because that's both how you name it and how you write the equation of it. But this equation is plugging in the center, which this center is 0, 0, so it's easy. And then the radius, in order to determine the radius, you figure out, okay, where's the center and how far from the edge is the center? And something you'll notice about the radius, as long as you have your center in the correct spot, in the actual center, it is equidistant. It's like the same distance from the center to every edge of that circle. So the center is 0, 0. So your h is 0, your k is 0, your radius or your r is 3. All right, let's look at this. What is happening here? Well, I'm going to just plug these numbers in and write everything else out, and then we'll talk about what we can do to kind of condense this down. All right, so just plugging these numbers in. Okay, and then things that are important to see. Anytime you have a 0 in the center, whether it's on the x value or the y value, the h or the k, you can just like make that disappear because you don't necessarily need to show that it's x minus 0 because something minus 0 is just itself. All right. And so you end up with this as the formula. So anytime the center of the circle is at 0, 0, you're just going to have x squared plus y squared on the left-hand side of that equation. The right-hand side of the equation is always going to be that radius squared. Okay, let's do some more examples, a little more complicated examples. And they're honestly really not that bad. But this is your h and your k. I'm actually going to go through here and label my h and k for every one. So things that are important to realize is this equation of the circle is kind of the important thing you need to have. That's why I put it very front and center on the notes. So we're just going to plug our h, our k, and our r in, and then we're going to simplify. All right, so what does that look like? So x minus 2, which is my h, squared, plus y minus 3 squared equals 4 squared. And then you can't change these at all, so it just ends up as x minus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared, and then that's 16. And I'll get my hand out of the way. My left hand just really gets in the way a lot. So the center of the circle. Okay, what's different here? This started as a positive 2. Look what's happening. It's x minus 2. That's the main thing that people forget. They forget to change the sign. Okay, what does this look like? When we have negative, like a negative 1, it's x minus negative 1 squared plus y minus negative 4 squared equals 2 squared. So I'm not expecting you to do this every time where you're writing this out and then having to like rewrite it, but I am showing you on the notes and showing you like what is happening. When you have minus a negative, can you guys help me? When I subtract a negative, what happens? It becomes a positive. I don't know how, if y'all learned it. I know when I learned it, back in the day, I honestly don't know when that was, elementary, middle school, something. My teacher was like, just turn the two negatives into a giant positive sign. And I don't know if your teacher did that in the past too. But I would just make that a giant positive. I'm not for this, just to show you like the change and what's happening. But basically what's happening is you are changing the sign every single time. So if it is positive, it ends up as negative in the formula. If it is negative, it ends up as positive in the formula, and then you have to square the radius. And remember at the beginning, I said there's two things that people mess up. The first thing that people mess up is they don't change the sign of the center. The second thing, they forget to square the radius. And that's pretty much it. Because you're going to be given the equation. You don't have to have the equation memorized. You just have to know how to plug stuff in. So I'm going to pause my screen, and I want you to write this third one. And then I'll show you in just a second. If you look at this, I mean, basically, make sure you don't leave this minus 0. That does not need to be shown, because it doesn't change it. And then make sure you change the sign. So make sure it's a +2 here. If somebody's going to miss it, it's probably this, or they leave this as 3 on accident. So that's what it looks like. This is what you will type in, like for the Delta Math. You want the, like, this version. You're not going to type in the unsimplified one. Just FYI, that question came up in second period. Okay. Let's look at this real quick. And I know you guys are tired and it's like hard to pay attention, but just stick with me here. We are going to look at finding the center of the circle, and I specifically put one like this because the center is not marked on the Delta Math assignment that you're going to see. You have to be able to look at this and figure out, okay, where is the center? What I like to do for the center is draw the diameter in 2 spots. Like just what is the longest line and the 2 spots, and I put that center on there. And one way that you can tell, is it the center, does it make sense, is it the same distance to up, to the right, to the left, and down? And if it is, then it's in the right spot. If I move this down 1, then it'll be, 1 more to go up than it is to go down. So that messes that up. But it is 6 units from the center to the edge. One way I can tell that is this is at -3, and the circle goes all the way to this 3 line. So -3 to 3, -3 to 0 is 3, 0 to 3 is another 3, so it's 6. Or you can just count the spaces. All right, so my radius is 6. My the center of my circle is -3, 3. So I can just plug these numbers in. So x plus 3 squared. So I'm changing my signs. And that should be a y, but it's not. Y minus 3 squared. And then 6 squared is 36. So don't accidentally write 6 there. Make sure, oh, y'all couldn't see any of that. Sorry, there it is. So I'll pause for a second while you guys make sure you have that written correctly. The radius here is going to be 4, and if you're having trouble like determining the radius, I'm just counting the spaces from the center to the edge. 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. It goes 4 to the left and 4 up. So the radius is going to be 4. The center is at 0, -1. So I'm actually not even going to draw my parentheses because it's 0. I'm just going to write x squared plus y plus 1 squared. I know we've done this like a million times at this point. Well, not a million, but 6 times. So just make sure you are not forgetting to square that radius. All right, go to the next page. It looks like it takes a long time. This next page does not take a long time. Okay, this is just to make sure you remember the little nuances of what we're doing. Changing the sign of the center. It's at -2, +1. You want to change this to a +2, change this to a -1. You're changing the sign. When you're given the equation, when you pull it out of that equation, the sign must be flipped. If it's positive, it goes to negative. And then what are we doing to 9? You actually have to go backwards and take the square root to get 3. So I know before we were like given the radius and we had to plug it into the formula. So we were squaring it or doing 3 squared. This time we're going backwards, and the opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. So the square root of 9 is 3. All right, how do we draw this? We go to 2, -1, and we plot that point. And then I think the easiest way to do it is by counting up to the left, down to the right, and drawing in that circle. So we're going up 3, down 3, left 3, right 3, and we end up with the 4 points of our circle, and then we just connect it. I mean, it's not going to look perfect, but it looks okay. On Delta Math, it kind of does it for you. So it is a perfect circle, which is nice. Okay, let's look at this next one. The center, anytime there's no parentheses and nothing written next to it, it's just going to be 0, 0. The radius is 5. Why is that? Because the square root of 25 is 5. So it's 0, 0, and then that radius is 5 units away. From all of them. There's my circle. Okay, I'm going to pause my screen. I want you guys to draw the circles on this bottom part. See if you have the right idea. See if you're putting the center in the right spot. You're getting the correct radius. Once you have them drawn, if you're just waiting on me, go ahead and get your Chromebook out and start working on the delta math. But I'll show it in a couple minutes.